What does it really mean when a woman chooses to live alone? What if living alone wasn't a sign of loneliness, but the most powerful act of self-love a woman could ever choose? Not as an act of rebellion. Not to defend herself against a society that still measures a woman's value by her relationships. But as a powerful gift to herself. What happens when a woman sits quietly with her soul and chooses to walk beside her own shadow? Not out of resignation, but from a deep realization. We still live in a world that often defines a woman's worth by the roles she plays: partner, mother, daughter, caregiver, emotional support. But more and more women are breaking free from that old story. Not out of anger or fear, but from a deep understanding. True fulfillment doesn't always come from someone else. It often grows from the depth of our own presence. Choosing to live alone is not a phase. It's not a pause before a real life begins. It's a conscious, intentional, even sacred choice. Still, society loves to label women who live alone. Too picky, too lonely, unfinished. But inside that solitude, something powerful is burning. Living alone isn't about giving up on love. It's about diving deeper into self-love, self-trust, and inner strength. For centuries, culture taught women to define themselves by how much they could care, obey, and support others. Being independent was not just rare, it was dangerous. A woman living alone was seen with pity or suspicion. Her freedom was misunderstood as a flaw, not a choice. Today, that's changing. Thanks to economic freedom, access to education, and the slow crumbling of old systems, women have more options than ever. But beyond all these external changes, something much deeper is happening inside. A shift from needing others for validation to trusting and honoring themselves first. Living alone doesn't mean rejecting men or relationships. It means no longer projecting onto others what we haven't yet found within ourselves. When a woman no longer depends on someone else to steer her life, she awakens her own power. She becomes her own leader. She makes decisions without waiting for approval. She protects her energy. Not because she's given up on love, but because she no longer needs love to define her worth. This path isn't easy. There will still be voices, both outside and inside, whispering. Something's wrong. This is just a phase. But those voices lose their power when a woman no longer needs to fill any emptiness. Because she has already found herself. Living alone is not about loneliness. It's about meeting your true self. Without distractions. Without playing any roles. Without mirrors that distort your truth. In the silence, the soul speaks. And that's where true freedom begins. Of course, this path has its risks. Solitude can be a place of incredible growth, or a way to hide from life. Everything depends on the intention behind it. If a woman isolates herself out of fear or unhealed wounds, solitude becomes a prison. But when chosen with love and consciousness, it becomes the most powerful tool for self-discovery. Conscious solitude teaches you how to stand strong on your own. How to validate yourself. How to trust your own intuition. It builds a bond so deep with yourself that no outside relationship can replace it. And along this journey, you'll meet your hidden parts, your shadow. All the fears, judgments, shame you once tried to hide come to the surface. Even independence can sometimes become a shield to avoid vulnerability. But when a woman faces her fears head-on without letting them control her, everything changes. She takes back the steering wheel of her life. She rebuilds herself based on her truth. Balancing fierce independence with emotional openness is the real challenge. Not using solitude to escape life, but to embrace it fully. Wholeness isn't about rejecting parts of ourselves. It's about shining a light into every hidden corner of our soul. Living alone becomes much more than a lifestyle. It becomes a rite of passage. A woman who crosses that threshold doesn't come out perfect. She comes out authentic. She learns to hold both her wild independence and her human need for connection. She realizes she was never incomplete. She never needed to be saved, only to be remembered. One of the biggest myths is that living alone means being empty inside. But physical solitude can open the door to the deepest communion with yourself. Sure, there will be days of nostalgia. But also days of revelation. Days of fully inhabiting your own body, your own space, without needing anyone else's approval. Another mistake is thinking that a woman living alone gives up her femininity. But femininity isn't about playing social roles. It's an inner force, conscious receptivity, intuition, creativity, transformative power. When a woman frees herself from society's projections, she doesn't lose her feminine essence. She rediscovers it. She reinvents it from within. Yes, social judgment still exists. The comments of, "When will you settle down," still come. But she knows her life didn't begin by finding someone else. It began when she found herself. It's so important to recognize the difference between chosen solitude and emotional disconnection. The first one expands you. The second one numbs you. The real question is, am I running from something or returning to myself? The answer changes everything. Because solitude isn't the end of anything. It's the beginning of ancient wisdom. A woman who chooses to live alone is not alone. She's in sacred communion with all the women before her who made silence a temple and freedom an act of love. Today, just like yesterday, a woman walking alone is not escaping life. She's remembering who she really is. And that is the ultimate act of self-love. Have you found yourself on this journey? Share your experience in the comments. Your voice matters, and every real story helps dismantle the old myths still weighing on women's souls.